Welcome back. Some small and medium enterprises are excluded from applying for big tenders as they don't have the necessary expertise to execute big Sanral projects. South African National Roads Agency is a parastatal responsible for the management, maintenance and development of proclaimed national road network, which includes many national and provincial roads. The lack of access to sophisticated and expensive machinery prevents SMMEs from having equal advantage when applying for big tenders. And the situation may change after Sanral and a company called Pilot Crushtec signed a memorandum of understanding that will empower those SMMEs. To tell us more about this is Skhumbuzo Macozoma, who is CEO of Sanral. Thank you very much for coming to our program, sir.
Good afternoon, Colin. Good afternoon to the viewers.
All right, tell us about this initiative and how it started.
It's really part of Sanral's implementation of its new long-term strategy, Horizon 2030. Within it, we've got a transformation framework, part of which led to us developing a transformation policy, which we are now embarking on implementing. One of the clauses in the policy says that we need to intervene in the supply chains within the construction industry to make sure that some of the people that own the supply chains work with us to try and make sure that we provide access to industry players in the different things that we need when we develop our roads, including equipment and construction materials. So this agreement we've signed with Pilot Crushtec comes in very important because it is about the equipment that we need to crush materials that we use for road layers. It's the fourth agreement of this kind that we've signed. We first signed with Bell Equipment, we signed with Palo World Equipment, we signed with Vetren, and now we're signing with Pilot Crushtec. All of them produce specific equipment that we use in the different categories where they operate, but the sum total of which are all used in the development of roads.
All right, so the big players in the industry have been preventing SMMEs from entering. So these barriers of entry to the market, how are you going to manage them?
So the agreements that we're signing are essentially going to make sure that the big equipment manufacturers become enablers when SMMEs secure contracts with Sanral. And for instance, they need access to equipment. Because they do the actual production of the equipment or the distribution, when people get tenders with us, they are able to now approach the big manufacturers and distributors if they need equipment. Because the equipment manufacturers have access to good relationships with financiers, they are able to facilitate the negotiation of better deals for the people that would be in tenders with Sanral. We also have requested them to ensure that they train these contractors when they acquire the equipment so that they're able to operate it, because it's very useless for someone to be able to acquire big, complex equipment only to damage it because they don't know how to operate it. Sanral projects are also located in various parts of the country, some in remote areas where you don't have access to repair facilities and so on. So these companies are going to assist us with technical support so that in fact they are able to provide support on site as opposed to having contractors having to haul equipment all the way to urban metropoles if it gets damaged during construction activity.
When it comes to access to the market by small players, don't you think that this may be a threat to the big players in terms of them wanting to take the slice from the pie, and then won't this lead then to them trying to circumvent the process, well, by saying that let's collude in terms of pricing models as well as the structure of making these equipments accessible to them?
Essentially, our intervention is to remove the middleman so that we interact directly with the equipment manufacturers so that they make better deals for SMMEs to be able to access equipment. The transformation policy also identifies and recognizes the big players, not only as clients to Sanral, but also enablers to assist us in this project of transforming the construction industry. What becomes important is for us to realize that the model that we apply provides opportunities for big players, but it also provides opportunities for subcontracts where normally the SMMEs will play, and that's in accordance with the preferential procurement policy framework regulations that were published by National Treasury in 2017.
Okay, so we're talking billions of rands here, but when it comes to accessing the finances and through the enablement by Sanral, how much is this going to cost you, and are you able to get your money back?
So essentially how the relationship is going to work is that Sanral will issue tenders. potential bidders will bid. Those that succeed will be able to secure the contracts. At the strength of the contracts, they'll be able to engage with the manufacturers if they need plant. The manufacturers will use our projects as collateral to avoid them demanding big guarantees from these subcontractors who might not be able to provide those guarantees. That's the intervention that Sanral is providing. So there's not going to be big monies exchanging hands where Sanral is concerned. It's a matter of facilitating access to finance so that people can procure the equipment that they can then use to deliver on projects. If they deliver successfully on projects, then they will get paid. And with the payments that they get, they'll be able to service the debt of the equipment that they acquired.
To ensure that the money that has been budgeted for is used adequately, what are your systems in place in as far as monitoring and evaluation as well as quality management?
So essentially, Sanral is a big project management house. Our expertise is to ensure that once we've had designs and we've let out tenders, we manage and oversee the execution of projects so that the suppliers stick to the terms and conditions of the contracts that have been issued. So we're very experienced on that. And if people tend to struggle, we've got frameworks now with the new transformation policy to be able to provide the support first without, allowing people to fail and then levying them with penalties. But for those that have been supported or those that blatantly just disregard the contract, we've got very, very clear frameworks for levying penalties for delays as well as penalties for non-completion of work. Of course, we are concerned about the current state of the industry with quite a significant number of players failing, and we are putting in this intervention, including the supplier development program that Sanral is currently launching as part of its transformation policy, to support suppliers so that they don't fail while, in fact, they are in the process of executing our projects.
All right. Thank you very much for making time to speak to us.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we're speaking to Skhumbuzo Macozoma, who is the CEO of Sanral, speaking to us about funding and assisting small and medium enterprises to afford expensive equipment for the projects of Sanral.